Hey everyone, my name is Tim Richardson and I'm a professional American football player with the Warsaw Mets. And today I want to talk to you about the history of American football. I want to get into a little bit about where it came from and how it's expanded over the decades and explain some of the rules and regulations so the next time you're watching a game live or on TV, you understand a bit more about what's going on. American football was derived from two sports, traditional European football and rugby. The earliest versions of American football were played in British public schools in the 19th century. Legend is, during a match, a player picked up the ball, ran down the field, and scored. This form of football, where running with the ball was more popular than kicking the ball, became very popular throughout colleges and universities in the US. In 1869, Princeton University and Rutgers University played in the first collegiate game. Years later, Walter Camp, widely regarded as the father of American football, created a lot of the common rules and innovations for the game. In 1920, the National Football League was formed, and a decade later, the modern era of American football, with the common field construction, schemes, and strategies you think of today, began. Now, American football is the most popular sport in the US. It has the highest average attendance, the highest TV ratings, and grosses the greatest league revenue of any sport worldwide. In a recent poll of avid American sports fans, college and professional football both ranked in the top 3 most popular sports. The Super Bowl is one of the biggest sporting events in the world, viewed by over 100 million people nationally and 30 to 50 million people internationally. The halftime show is one of the most elaborate performances of the year, being streamed in over 130 countries and over 30 languages. Some common misconceptions about American football is that it's only for men, but in actuality, viewership is 53% male and 47% female. Another misconception is that American football is only played in America, but as of today, there's over 50 countries that play American football in a league, including Japan, Mexico, Brazil, Australia. Canada even has their own version of American football, and there's even an indoor version of American football called arena football. In Europe, there's leagues all across the continent and multiple countries, including Germany, Austria, France, Italy, Finland, and even Poland. Poland actually has one of the strongest leagues in all of Europe. Some teams you may be familiar with are the Warsaw Panthers, Białystok Lowlanders, Tychy Falcons, Gdynia Seahawks, and of course, the Warsaw Mets. Now that I've gone over a little bit of the history of American football, let's go over some of the rules and regulations. American football is a very complex sport. A lot of people see the game, they see the violence and the aggressiveness, and they think it's just brutal. But in actuality, it's very strategic. The game is 90% mental and 10% physical. The teams with the best schemes, the best strategies, to put themselves in the best positions to win are the teams that are consistently in the playoffs and competing for the championship. Some things I want to go over today are the scoring, penalties, the clock, some basics, and some important concepts. The basics. American football is a game of territory. The whole goal is to conquer as much territory as possible and score as many times as possible. Just like any other sport, the team with the most points wins. Conquering territory. The whole goal, like I said, is to advance the ball into your opponent's territory to be able to gain points without losing possession of the ball. You have 4 downs or plays in order to move the ball down the field in this regard. Expanding territory. There's 2 different ways to do that, either on the ground or through the air. On the ground is a ball carrier takes the ball, runs with it until they're tackled or go out of bounds. And through the air is typically when the quarterback passes the ball to an eligible receiver downfield. Some elements of the field. Some terms that you may be familiar with when it comes to American football and the field construction would be the sideline, end zone, hash marks, numbers, and line of scrimmage. This is a traditional American football field. From end zone to end zone, it's 100 yards. So the numbers on the top and the bottom of the field indicate exactly your positioning on the field. These 2 areas at the end are the touchdowns or the end zones, where you are able to gain the most points, and the ultimate goal of football is to score a touchdown. You have the hash marks, which show you your positioning on the field in relation to the sideline. And you have the sideline, which indicates the field of play from out of bounds. Here you have the uprights, or the field goal, in which balls are kicked through in order to gain points as well. Let's talk about the scoring system. There's 5 traditional ways to score in American football: touchdown, field goal, extra point, 2-point conversion, or a safety. A touchdown is when Team A reaches Team B's end zone or touchdown with possession of the ball. This is worth 6 points. A field goal is when the ball is placed on the ground, held by someone, and kicked through the uprights or through the field goal. This is worth 3 points. A safety can be a little complex to understand, but essentially, if a person on Team A has possession of the ball within their own end zone, and if they are tackled in the end zone, step out of bounds in the end zone, or if their team commits a penalty in the end zone, the opposing team is rewarded 2 points. An extra point and 2-point conversion happen after you score a touchdown. You have the ability to either kick the ball through the uprights or go for another touchdown that's worth either 1 point for a field goal or 2 points for the 2-point conversion. The down system. This is how teams or offenses move up and down the field. You essentially have 4 plays in order to get 10 yards. If you're able to get those 10 yards within those 4 plays, you're rewarded a fresh set of 4 plays and another 10 yards to obtain. If you're unable to get the 10 yards within those 4 plays, the other team takes possession of the ball. 4th down is a critical down in American football. This is a time where teams have to make a decision, whether to go for it, which means to try to obtain the remaining yards needed to get the first down, or to punt the ball, which means they kick the ball to the opponent in order to increase the distance which the opponent has to travel to get into their territory. Some basic regulations: there's 22 players on the field at one time, 11 on offense and 11 on defense. A lot of people see American football teams because they're 45 or 50 players deep, and they think, why are so many players needed for a sport that only has 11 players on the field at one time? Football is a very specific sport, so there's different positions for different people, and rarely can you see someone play on all 3 phases of the game. So the teams need a bunch of different people of different skill sets in order to make the most efficient team. There's 3 timeouts per half, and there's special teams unit, which is involved with the kicking when it comes to scoring or exchange of possession of the ball. Let's get into the clock. The American football is played in 4 quarters, traditionally 12 minutes each, when it's in high school, collegiate, or international play. In the NFL, they play 15-minute quarters. The halftime is usually between 12 and 15 minutes long. Now you see the time where it's either 48 minutes and 60 minutes and think, oh, this is a relatively short game. But in actuality, a game lasts anywhere from 2.5 hours to 4 hours because of all the stoppages that happen throughout the game. Some of those stoppages include when the ball carrier steps out of bounds, when there's an incomplete pass, end of the quarter, a first down, a penalty, a score, a turnover, or when a timeout is requested. Temporary stoppages with first downs or penalties happen when the teams have a new movement in the game. If a team gets a first down, the officials, the measurement team, and the teams need to move to a different position on the field and get set up. After this amount of time, the offense is allowed 25 seconds to continue the play. Also, another time where the clock temporarily stops is during a penalty. Once a team gets a penalty, the referee assesses the yardage needed for the penalty. The chain crew, referees, and teams reposition. And when everybody repositions, the offense has 25 seconds to start the play. The play clock. From the time that a play ends to the start of a next play, the offense has 40 seconds in which to get that play off or started. If they're unable to get the play started, they have a delayed game penalty, which moves them back 5 yards. Situational football. An important thing to know about American football is at the end of halves or the game, there's a 2-minute warning, which is a stoppage in the game to kind of indicate, hey, there's not much time left. Teams need to change their strategies, get more aggressive, or get more defensive based on the score and their positioning in the game. Some important concepts to know. The line of scrimmage. This is where the ball is placed, and there's an imaginary line that separates the offense from the defense. You have the backfield, is everything on the offensive side of the line of scrimmage. You have a live ball, which is a ball that can be possessed by either team during a play. A fumble is when a person who has control of the ball loses control of the ball, and now it's able for either team to take possession. You have a forward pass. This is when a quarterback throws the ball to an eligible receiver. This is the only situation in which the ball hits the ground during a play that it's considered dead and it's not live for teams to take possession. Inbounds and out of bounds are common sports terms, which basically means inbounds, you're within the field of play. Out of bounds, you're outside the field of play. When a player is down is when they can no longer gain yards. This happens when a player is either tackled by an opponent or fall under their own power. The only parts of a player that are allowed to be on the ground are the palm of their hand and the soles of their feet. There's a lot of rules and a lot of penalties in American football, but I'll go over some of the basics and not try to bore you with all the details and all of the rules. We don't have time for all of that. But some key ones to know are offsides, which is when any part of a player's body is over the line of scrimmage when the ball is put into play. You have a face mask, is when a player grabs another player's face mask, which is the face shield or front part of the helmet. And you have a personal foul, which is any illegal penalty that causes harm or risk of harm to another player. So if a player is already out of bounds and the play is over and somebody tries to hit them, whether a player is already downed or tackled and somebody tries to jump after the whistle or after the play is dead, or if a player is completely away from the play that's happening, not paying attention, and somebody tries to hit them in order to cause injuries to these players. Yes, football is a very, very violent sport, but there are definitely some rules in place to try to keep it humane and not too brutal. Thanks everyone for taking some time to listen to me talk about American football today. I hope this sparked your interest more in the sport, and I hope that you learned something from it. I hope to see you at Polonia Stadium to see a live game with the Warsaw Mets. And if not, definitely catch some games online or on TV whenever you get the chance. Hope you guys have a great day. See you soon.